Karen took my firewood without asking. I replaced it with ant-filled logs. It wasn't the theft that got to me. It was the entitlement. The slow, smug way she'd glance over her shoulder, reach for my firewood, and walk off like it was her God-given right to help herself right there in broad daylight. No shame, no apology, just a tight-lipped smirk and a "you're welcome" wave, like she'd done me the favor. Her name was Karen Whitmore, president of the Not Real Hillside Grove HOA, and this was just the beginning. I moved to Hillside Grove after my wife died. Small town, quiet cul-de-sac, the kind of place where people wave when they walk their dogs and leave zucchinis on your porch during summer harvest. At least, that's what the brochure said. I bought a modest fixer-upper on the edge of the neighborhood, right where the woods met the road. It had an old barn out back, a perfect wood chopping spot, and enough trees to keep me stocked through the winter. I'd just turned 40 and needed something to work with my hands, something to sweat out the grief. I didn't expect a war over logs. The first time it happened, I gave her the benefit of the doubt. I saw her from my kitchen window, blonde bob bouncing, arms stacked high with neatly split maple. I figured maybe she thought it was a giveaway pile. I walked outside and caught her just as she tossed the wood into her SUV's trunk. "Hey there," I said calmly. "Those logs are actually mine." She turned, smiled too wide. "Oh, I assumed it was public. This area's HOA managed. Shared resources and all that." I blinked. "We don't have an HOA." She laughed, patting the hood of her car like she was sharing a joke with a toddler. "You're new here. I'll have someone drop off the rules." And just like that, she drove off my logs in tow. A week later, I got a letter in the mailbox. Typed, unofficial, but stamped with the Hillside Grove Resident Wellness Committee, seal a clip art tree with a handshake in the middle. It read, "Notice of Material Abundance. Per Code 4B of the HOA Guidelines. Residents must offer surplus resources to the community. Failure to comply may result in fines or revocation of access to shared lots." I nearly choked on my coffee. There were no fines, no access to revoke. This was the suburbs, not a dictatorship. But the part that chilled me, it was signed Karen Whitmore. Interim Community Officer, unofficial, acting capacity for now. I brought it up to a few neighbors. Maggie across the street chuckled. "Oh, honey, Karen's been printing those fake letters since 2017. We call it K-mail. She acts like we voted her queen. So why does no one stop her? She's loud, persistent, and honestly, most folks are too tired to argue. But we all ignore her. Except now she wasn't just annoying. She was stealing. The second theft happened that weekend. I'd chopped a fresh stack early Saturday, neatly arranged under a tarp, beside a sign I wrote in thick black, Sharpie private wood, "Do not touch." Karen ignored it. I heard her SUV before I saw her, the crunch of tires on gravel, the thunk of the hatchback, and the unmistakable sound of split logs being tossed like old laundry. I stormed out. "Karen." She froze mid-reach, hand on a thick chunk of oak. "You're trespassing," I snapped. She rolled her eyes. "It's just wood. You've got more than enough. Don't be selfish. You walked past a sign that says, 'Do not touch,' and I represent the HOA." She declared, "That sign has no authority." I stared at her. "There is no HOA. You keep telling yourself that," she said, cool as cucumber, and peeled out with another full load. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I was scared, no. Because I was boiling. This wasn't about firewood anymore. It was about power. Fake power. Manufactured control. The kind that worms its way into communities and rots them from the inside out. Karen had built a paper crown and was forcing everyone to bow. I wasn't about to kneel. So I set up a camera, a motion sensor wildlife cam, camouflaged against a nearby pine, aimed right at the stack. 3 days passed. She came twice. Each time, she parked, glanced around, and lifted logs like she was grabbing milk at the store. I had it all on video, and I had a plan. The next morning, I took a trip to Miller's Feed and Supply, Picked up two things: a bag of carpenter ants, yes, live ones, meant for feeding reptiles. A hollowed-out stack of fire logs I'd pre-drilled myself. I called it Operation Biterwood. I laced those logs with ants like a Trojan horse, carefully placed them at the top of the pile, right where Karen liked to shop. Then I waited. The trap was set. I didn't expect it to work so perfectly or so fast. The very next morning, before I'd even finished my coffee, her white Lexus SUV coasted into my gravel path like clockwork. Through the slats of my blinds, I saw her step out wearing her usual tennis whites and visor, like she was off to a country club brunch. She walked up to the pile, looked around, no cameras in sight. She must have thought, and grabbed 3 logs from the very top, the ones I'd drilled. She didn't even hesitate. I smiled. By noon, the neighborhood Facebook group was on fire. Does anyone know why Karen was screaming in her driveway this morning? Paul C. Pretty sure I saw her swatting herself with a rake, Maggie T. LOL, Karen's wearing oven mitts and pacing like she sat in a wasp nest. Amanda H. I sipped my coffee and clicked the like button. Justice wasn't just poetic, it was biting, stinging, crawling poetic. That afternoon, I got a knock on the door. It wasn't Karen, it was Officer Brent, local deputy, young, polite, the kind of guy who still said ma'am to old ladies and held his hat respectfully when delivering bad news. Hey, Mason, he said, stepping onto the porch. We had a report this morning about, insect-based sabotage. I chuckled. Let me guess. Karen. She claims you booby-trapped your firewood. I never told her to take it. I replied, arms crossed. She's been trespassing for weeks. I've got video. Brent scratched his chin. So, you're saying she stole it? I'm saying she helped herself to marked private property and got an organic surprise. He tried not to smile. Look, he said, technically she's the one in the wrong. You didn't bait her. Right. She reached for the logs on her own. I didn't invite her. He nodded slowly. Okay, just keep things peaceful. You know how Karen is. Oh, I did. And so did the rest of the town. Karen, to her credit, didn't come storming over right away. She plotted. 3 days of silence. Then a new letter appeared in my mailbox, different font, bolder header, citation for hostile materials. Your actions constitute a violation of HOA health codes and safety guidelines. A formal review hearing is being scheduled. Failure to appear may result in HOA intervention and property reassessment fines. This time, I didn't laugh, because taped to the envelope was a blurry screenshot of me, standing near the woodpile, holding one of the drilled logs. She'd taken a still from my own security footage and printed it. It was getting serious. I marched across the street and knocked on her door. Karen answered with a smug smile and an ice pack taped to her forearm. Problem, she asked sweetly. You're trespassing. Again. But now you're also printing false citations with stolen images. False, she snapped. I'm the acting HOA president. No, you're not. There is no HOA. That's what you think. But I've got 24 signatures. I've been building this community back up since before you crawled in here with your chainsaw and lumberjack fantasies. I stared at her. You do realize none of this has legal standing. Maybe not now, but once I'm incorporated, you'll be the first find. Keep pushing me. Karen, I'm not the one who stole property and lied to police. That wiped the smile off her face. Consider this your warning, she hissed and slammed the door. Later that night, I got a call from Maggie. You need to see this, she said. She sent me a photo, a flyer posted to the community bulletin board by the Lake Trail Town Meeting Safety Concerns in Hillside Grove. Are your neighbors harboring pests, storing dangerous insects, hoarding resources? HOA candidate Karen Whitmore wants to protect you. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my beer. This woman wasn't just deranged, she was launching a full political campaign. The next morning, Maggie and Paul helped me go door to door. We knocked. We talked. We shared the real story, the video clips, the fake citations, the false titles and bogus HOA claims. By sundown, we'd spoken with 22 households and not one supported Karen. Most of them had their own stories. She fined me $50 for not mowing on a Tuesday. She reported my kid's lemonade stand. She replaced our community flag with one that said HOA strong. Turns out, I wasn't the first to be stung, but I would be the last. A week later, Karen hosted her big town meeting at the park. She rented folding chairs, passed out cookies, and even brought a microphone. She wore a sash that read, "Interim HOA President." Half the neighborhood showed up out of curiosity, some out of spite. I showed up with a projector. When she launched into her speech about dangerous anarchists and wood-hoarding extremists, I plugged in a USB. The screen lit up. Footage played. Karen, reaching into my woodpile, loading her trunk, ignoring the sign. Then Karen, screaming, sprinting across her driveway, ants swarming her sleeves. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Even the mayor's assistant, who'd come for good PR, had to cover her mouth. Karen froze. "This is defamation," she shouted. "No," I said calmly into the mic. "This is reality." She tried to speak again, but no one was listening anymore. People were whispering, snickering, walking away. Her paper crown had crumbled. But I wasn't done yet. I stepped forward. "This community doesn't need a dictator," I said. "We need each other. Not fake rules. Not fake fines. Just respect. And maybe some actual firewood, if you ask nicely." A round of applause followed. Karen grabbed her folding chair and stormed off. The sash, it fell off in the wind. The morning after Karen's public meltdown at the park meeting, a thick manila envelope appeared at my front gate. This time certified mail. I knew she was ramping up. Inside was a typed cease and desist letter on HOA letterhead that she clearly printed herself. The document accused me of inciting public humiliation, unlawful use of invasive species, and my favorite neighborhood terrorism via weaponized wood. I held it up to the sunlight and laughed. This wasn't just about firewood anymore. This was her power trip spiraling out of control. But her letter gave me an idea. I walked over to Paul's place with the envelope in hand. He worked for the city's zoning and code enforcement department, and more importantly, he hated bullies. "She's filing fraudulent citations under a fake organization." I said, "Can the city do anything?" Paul flipped through the documents. "We've been suspicious of her. She's been calling in fake violations since February, people's fences, sheds, even wind chimes. She said she was forming an HOA. Is that even allowed?" He nodded slowly. "Technically, yes, but only through a county-level charter vote and landowner consent. And she's got neither. Not even close." I grinned. "Want to make it official that weekend." Paul filed a motion to review unauthorized municipal representation. Maggie started compiling a neighborhood testimony list, collecting statements from everyone Karen had bullied. Meanwhile, I took things a step further. I reached out to the local reporter for the Hillside Tribune, someone named Diane Collier. She'd covered a scandal the year prior where a fake water inspector had shaken down a trailer park for fake fines. This was right up her alley. "You're telling me she's been impersonating an HOA president?" Diane asked during our phone call. "She's printing citations, forging documents, holding meetings under false pretenses, and weaponizing ants." I said, "Okay," she chuckled. "I'm in." The story ran 2 days later under the headline, "Queen of the Cul-de-sac Local Woman Accused of Running Fake HOA." It featured a side-by-side image of Karen holding a self-printed fine, next to me holding the drilled firewood. The quotes from neighbors were scathing. "She charged me $100 for a lawn flamingo." John R., "She fined my autistic son for sidewalk chalk." Stacy M., "She threatened to confiscate my bird bath." Timothy P., "Karen's house went dark for a full day." Then the retaliation began. The next morning, my firewood pile was gone. Gone. As in completely vanished. Only a trail of tire tracks led out of my backyard. I stood in disbelief. Karen had waited for the smoke to die down, then made her boldest move yet. She'd stolen everything. I reported it. Deputy Brent came by again. This time he wasn't polite. We warned her after the first complaint. He said, looking around my property, "But if she broke in and took this much, we've got grounds." He wrote up a full report. That evening, I posted about it on the neighborhood page. No gloating, just facts. My entire firewood pile was stolen this morning. Sheriff notified. If you saw anything suspicious near Karen's property or a white SUV hauling lumber, please speak up. And speak up they did. 6 different neighbors sent me ring footage Karen backing her SUV into my driveway at 4:32 a.m., wearing all black like some kind of suburban cat burglar. The video went viral. Diane updated her article with the footage and retitled the piece, "Karen Caught Red-Handed, Fake HOA President Steals Wood." Sparks outrage. The public backlash was immediate. The town mayor issued a formal statement condemning any attempts at community control outside of lawful association structures. The comments section exploded. "She's got main villain energy. I don't know if I should be mad or impressed. Weaponized firewood. 2025 is wild. Ants, really?" The pressure built. By midweek, Karen posted a statement on her own page. Doubling down, the media doesn't understand what it takes to maintain order. I acted to protect our block from escalating timber terrorism. Sometimes leaders must act unilaterally. History will judge. Oh, it did. By Friday, a court summons was delivered to her mailbox. I didn't send it. The county did. She tried to hold another HOA rally in her front yard. Only 4 people showed up, 2 of them by accident. The sign on her driveway now read, "Reclaim Order," but someone had spray painted over it with "Return the Wood." Meanwhile, I rebuilt my firewood pile, this time with cameras, locks, and a pressure-triggered garden hose. But something had changed. Neighbors I barely knew now waved when they passed by. Strangers dropped off snacks or firewood bundles as donations. It wasn't just about me and Karen anymore. It was about the kind of neighborhood we wanted to live in. The next showdown would be public. Karen was summoned to a zoning hearing to explain her fake HOA actions, and she wasn't going alone. She was bringing a lawyer. But so was I. Maggie, Paul, and I had collected witness statements, forged fine examples, video clips, and testimony. It wasn't just payback. It was justice in the making. I had never seen a public zoning hearing so full. You'd have thought it was a town hall on nuclear power or banning Halloween decorations. But nope, folks lined the walls and spilled out into the hallway for Karen's fake HOA hearing. The head of the zoning board, Linda Carver, tapped her pen loudly and cleared her throat. "We're here to address allegations of unauthorized municipal enforcement by Ms. Karen Halbrook, including but not limited to falsified citations, impersonation of housing authority, and unlawful trespass." Karen sauntered to the podium like it was her TED Talk debut. "I'm not here to apologize," she began, the microphone feeding back. "I'm here to explain why I stepped up where the city fell silent." The crowd murmured. She clicked a button on her remote. A PowerPoint slide blinked onto the screen behind her. Vision for HOA restoration, safety, cleanliness, and order. Slide 2, a poorly photoshopped image of my house surrounded by flames. Maggie gasped. "Is that your porch on fire?" Paul leaned closer. "Those are stock flames. I've seen that graphic before. I think she used a meme generator." Karen, completely serious, continued. "This neighbor," she said, pointing to me, "installed insect-infested wood, created a hazard, endangered the community, and used media manipulation to damage my leadership." Gasps. Again. Linda from the zoning board interjected. "Ms. Halbrook, this is a zoning review, not a personal vendetta. Do you have documentation of your charter?" Karen fumbled with a binder. It flopped open to reveal grocery receipts, a printout of my Facebook post, and a cover page labeled HOA Constitution in Comic Sans font. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. Then it was my turn. I stood slowly, clutching a thick stack of printouts and a thumb drive. "Madam Chair," I said, trying to keep my voice even, "I'm not here to humiliate anyone. I just want to protect my home and the homes of my neighbors from unauthorized control and harassment. I plugged in the USB, up popped side-by-side stills, Karen in night vision, stealing my firewood, Karen holding forged fines, Karen at the park, screaming about ant terrorism. The murmurs turned into murmured laughter. Here, I pointed to one slide, is the video footage of Karen trespassing and removing my firewood at 4:32 a.m. Here's another of her posting phony HOA notices on private mailboxes. A zoning officer raised an eyebrow. That's a federal offense. Karen's smile wavered. Maggie then stood to speak. My name is Maggie Flores. I live on Sycamore Street. Last year, Ms. Halbrook fined me $75 for excessively pink flowers. She slid it under my door with no name, no legal authority. She's not a representative. She's a tyrant in a pantsuit. Laughter again. But this time, it came with nods. Then I work in code enforcement. I reviewed all the documents she used. Every citation was self-printed and unsigned. She forged a county seal using a Pinterest tutorial. Even the board members cracked a smile at that. Then came the neighbors one by one. She told my kids sidewalk chalk was vandalism. She threatened to call the fire marshal over a solar panel. She fined my wheelchair ramp for non-aesthetic angles. By the time the seventh person finished testifying, Karen looked like she wanted to crawl under her PowerPoint. Then Diane, the journalist, stood from the back of the room. I'd like to enter into public record this series of articles in community response. My paper received 127 comments from affected residents. Some feared retaliation, others were just angry. But the message is clear. This was organized harassment under the pretense of authority. The zoning board conferred quietly. Linda leaned into her mic. We have sufficient testimony and documentation, effective immediately. Ms. Karen Halbrook is issued a cease and desist from representing any housing authority or distributing violation notices within Hillside County. Applause erupted. Karen shouted over it. You're all sheep. You don't care about order. This place will burn without me. Security approached. Later that evening, I returned home to find something taped to my mailbox. A piece of cardboard. On it, written in blue marker, I may have lost the HOA. But I will watch your woodpile burn. I turned it over. On the back, a grocery list. Karen wasn't done, so I made sure I wasn't done either. The next day, Maggie launched a petition to create an actual neighborhood council, not an HOA, but a real, community-run forum. One with transparency, fairness, and no power-tripping vigilantes. We called it Hillside Voices. Within 48 hours, we had over 90 signatures. Meanwhile, Karen's troubles escalated. Her HOA scam had consequences beyond zoning. The sheriff's department launched an investigation into her possible identity fraud, document forgery, and theft. She tried to claim victimhood online. They hated me because I cared, but the internet's patience for Karens had long worn thin. People started reposting the woodpile footage with hashtags, choose your timber tyrant, choose your ants for justice, return the logs. Karen, she was a meme. And when you become a meme, your fall is no longer private, it's public and permanent. But even as Karen spiraled, I tried to stay focused on something bigger, restoring community, reclaiming the space she poisoned with fear. We held our first Hillside Voices meeting that Sunday. We had lemonade, fold-out chairs, music, kids running through sprinklers, and, yes, a controlled fire pit built from reclaimed bricks. No one mentioned Karen. No one needed to. We were building forward. Rebuild. A sheriff's SUV pulls in, blue light strobing against the rising smoke and the chaos Karen unleashed on herself. Karen's downfall came, quite poetically, with smoke and sirens. It started when she decided to prove the firewood she'd stolen was dangerous. Yes, she brought the ant-filled logs back. Apparently, she didn't realize they were the same ones I had treated with a sweet solution and sealed in a mesh bag before stacking them last fall. The ants weren't random. They were an organized force of nature, and they were hungry. She lit them in her backyard pit during what she loudly declared a community bonfire of cleansing. "I'm burning the evidence of injustice," she screamed to no one in particular. Neighbors watched from windows, unsure if they should call the fire department or Animal Planet. Within minutes, her shrieking started. Ants, warmed and agitated by the flame, emerged in waves crawling up her pants, onto her face, inside her boots. She thrashed, knocked over the chimenea, and sent embers scattering across her plastic lawn chairs. By the time the fire truck arrived, her patio was scorched, her patio lights melted, and her HOA enforcement sign, yes, she had one, was a warped puddle of acrylic. And I wish I could say that was the end. But Karen's last gasp wasn't fire, it was court. A week later, she sued me, claimed emotional damage, reputational sabotage, and you'll love this, premeditated entomological terrorism. Her lawyer looked like he was trying not to laugh. My lawyer, who I'd hired pro bono from a local civil rights nonprofit after the journalist Diane vouched for me, didn't need to say much. He played the videos, the stolen wood, the forged HOA papers, the surveillance footage of Karen sneaking across yards, the now viral clip of her screaming, "The ants are in my eyebrows." The judge took 10 minutes. Case dismissed. She was fined for court costs and issued a restraining order, barring her from setting foot within 100 feet of my home. But justice didn't stop at legal boundaries. The sheriff's department, now officially involved, pursued charges for impersonating an official and harassment. They traced some of her phony citations back to cases where elderly residents had actually paid her. That turned the situation from petty conflict to criminal fraud. 3 elderly neighbors, one of them a widow named Miss Cartwright, filed a civil suit. They won. Karen's assets weren't much, but her retirement fund took a hit, and she was ordered to perform 200 hours of community service, which, ironically, she had to do at the real city zoning office, filing permits for projects she used to find people for. Meanwhile, Hillside Voices grew. By spring, we had a proper website, an elected volunteer board, monthly potlucks and trash cleanups. We helped a neighbor rebuild his fence after a storm. Maggie organized a kids' mural project. Paul started a workshop series on DIY home repairs. We even got a grant for a community garden. It wasn't perfect, but it was real, born from pain, fueled by unity, and protected by transparency. No secret fines, no fake power, just people showing up for each other. A few months later, I spotted Karen in town. She was walking out of the courthouse with a clipboard and a neon vest that said, "Volunteer, County Service Program." Her eyes met mine. She didn't snarl, didn't scream. She looked tired, like the fire inside her finally burned out. And for the first time, I didn't feel angry. I felt nothing, because justice isn't revenge, it's closure. The last meeting of Hillside Voices that year was held in the park. Kids were roasting marshmallows. Paul manned the fire pit using fresh, ant-free wood. Maggie handed out no fake fines tote bags, and I stood up and told my story. All of it. The crowd laughed in the right places, cringed at the rest, and cheered when I said no single person should get to decide who belongs. This neighborhood belongs to all of us or none of us. And that was the truth. We'd stared down entitlement, fire, and a swarm of lies, and we came out clean. If you've ever been bullied by fake authority, manipulated by someone in power, or silenced by fear, don't stay quiet. Document everything. Build allies. Speak truth. And when the moment comes, stand your ground. Because sometimes justice looks like a courtroom. Sometimes it looks like a spotlight. And sometimes it looks like a log full of ants. Share your story. Whose side are you on? Karen's or the community's justice starts with the next voice that refuses to be silenced? Maybe that's yours.